Hi Vaibhav, thank you for giving me this opportunity of doing a podcast interview with you. And to begin with, congratulations on your new assignment and wish you all the best, because I know you're going to take this small organization, which you can call a baby, to probably adult in maybe much earlier years than what your company would expect to do, right? So the first question is, you moved over from a 2,000 crore multinational to a relatively small organization, not only in terms of the top line, but also in terms of strength. So was getting the CEO position the only factor which influenced the decision?
Okay, so there's always an aspect of ambition which I always had in terms of what I need to achieve by what years of my professional life. But having said, it's also very important to understand which organization do you see in terms of making those professional choices. So this actually opportunity came to me, and when surprising, it was again a Swiss company. But what actually influenced the decisions, I would say there were three parts. The first important part was the value and the credibility of this organization, because this is something where you're moving from one company to the other company. It's extremely important. What kind of culture this organization brings in. And the third important part for me always was the vision of this organization, not at a global level, but also at the India level. I think these were three factors on which I would say, apart from ambition being one of the factors, were influenced actually for me to move from a 2,000 crore company to maybe relatively smaller also in terms of strength. Because the opportunities which are there in order to grow this company, being in the construction industry, where the opportunities in India are going to be tremendous, I thought it's the right choice to make.
But you didn't consider the market when you're doing this? Whether your company will have a great market, the growth in the market, which you probably, because finally the growth of a company good factor is dependent on the market. So
right.
Did you not take that into consideration?
So when I actually little bit reflected back on the performance of this organization, what I saw was they had an average compounded out average growth rate of about 18% for the last 10 years, right? So in terms of the growth this company has achieved as compared to what market has done was amazingly good, to be honest. The second factor was the acceptance of the brand in the market was again very good. And the last is the product being very strong, and that's also what you see globally, right? And when I came to know that everything absolutely is sort of completely knocked down and then assembled in India, I said, okay, there is also an opportunity in future. We can look at localization, right? So I would say the opportunities were more, and obviously then there's a factor of taking those decisions in order to...
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that is actually, I would say, a long-term thinking, because at the end of the day, it has to be a combination of short-term versus long-term. Rightly you mentioned Belém is also a Swiss company. The company you worked for, Schindler, was also a Swiss company. Was that intentional or was that by default?
It came my way, honestly. It was not like I wanted to go to a Swiss company. Okay. Obviously, the decision became a lot easier after knowing that it's a Swiss company, because as compared to a European-based company to a US-based company, right? So European-based companies have this aspect of very people-oriented, culturally very strong. So obviously it just I did not make an genuine...
Swiss has its own brand in our country, and people working for Swiss, whether it is airlines or whether it is capital equipment.
Absolutely.
Because I remember the big ones, big names, Aisha Brownberry, Schindler, Belém, all the Swiss companies have a different aura altogether, right? So I was wondering whether you did that intentionally or it was just by default. It looks like by default. Obviously, a little bit, which I have been in touch with you, this decision of moving over, did you take this decision during the pandemic kind of timing, or was the decision already taken?
It was actually end of March, so pandemic had already hit.
So what would be interesting for me is, did you not have that feeling of insecurity related to pandemic. Now I'm going to switch a new job. I don't know what it is going to be. So just get us through the journey of your thinking.
It was very interesting, right? So the pandemic had sort of started to hit global economy very strong. It just started in India, and then I had to decide on signing an offer. And actually, I called the company and said, "Are you still want to consider a person to take up the role?" Right? They said, "Vaibhav, to be honest," and that answer actually inspired me to join this company. Said, when it comes to India, we are thinking long term. Yes, we understand it's a pandemic. That also gives you an opportunity to get settled in the organization, and then whatever support is required from our side, we will do it, right? However, from my family perspective, it was a big discussion. First of all, leaving Schindler.
That's interesting.
It was absolutely a big, and I told my mother-in-law, my mother, they said, "You are making a wrong decision," because they've always seen me wearing only one color, right? That's a red color, and then I have to change the color to orange. But obviously they understood my personal ambition, right, and the opportunity which I've got, and again the Swissness helped in that regards. And obviously I see pandemic as an opportunity, right? And that's actually one of the factors why I said yes. And I always give this example to people, saying scoring 300 runs on Indian wicket, which is absolutely flat, but scoring 100 runs in UK conditions, London conditions where the ball is swinging, and if you are able to make even 100, I think that is more fulfilling than scoring 300 on Indian pitch. So I saw pandemic as an opportunity personally for myself, also because not many leaders will get an opportunity to lead during pandemic, during this crisis. I don't know when next something like this will happen. So I said this will also test myself, and really what personal ambitions I have, I will get a sort of feedback for myself whether I'm ready to take up next challenges in future. So it was a combination of all this.
Experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. And they said this is the age when I can do it, and then in case success or failure, the time will tell, right? But I still have something which is strong fundamentally. Being in the elevator industry for 19 years is something which I can always go back.
It's a very interesting risk mitigation, because many people would have obviously the kind of pressures you just mentioned, family pressures especially, would not have taken the decision of switching over in this situation. It's good. Now that you're already here, we still have the lockdown continuing. Business probably is going to pick up because signs are coming in. I think it's 3 months since you joined this company? I remember July, August, September, little more than 3 months.
70 days,
3 months. So as Vaibhav Pitale, these 3 months in the pandemic situation where people are working from home,
right?
As I'm repeating, as Vaibhav Pitale, what are your 3 contributions which think can be worth mentioning? Right. Maybe to the company or within you or whatever it is.
So as you rightly mentioned, during pandemic, where even I have not visited all my different branches today, I have not met each and every employee. Ideally would have liked to do it with the size of company we have. I think it was extremely important to develop that employee connect, I would say, and that was one of my top priorities, to be honest, too, because I don't come from this industry, right? I may not have the reliability and credibility at this point of time, but obviously one thing which I know I have very strong is the people connect, right? Because that eventually will form a source of
that
information.
is always a strong point. Right?
Source of information for me to then take action. So first is that. The second thing which I've really said, I prepared for this role. So in terms of prepared a 100-day action plan, what am I going to do? Sort of in first 90 days, first 30 days, first 60 days, right? And I'm religiously following that 100-day action plan. The third thing which I said is I come from a operations background, sales background. I said immediately I will not deep down, because there's already something good which is happening in the company, which is the customer, the brand image, the reputation, the product is so strong, right? I would, and this was one of the advice which was given to me during the assessment, Vaibhav, don't deep dive immediately. Observe, right? And then when you have enough data on your hand, then start looking at making those small changes. because something which is already running well, don't try to rock the boat at this point of time, because you also come from a different background and different, you will take your own time. I think these three things I'm doing, and honestly the last thing is listen more and talk less.
That in fact is the most universal thing which really works. So I think it's a great decision you're taking. Time of course will tell. End of the day, what they say is the results are more important, right? This year is not going to be the year where results are going to be assessed, but how you have managed a pandemic situation is going to be, and especially from people point of view. So good. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity of sharing this with you, and wish you all the best in whatever you're doing, including your factory coming up in Navi Mumbai.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Thank you. It's absolutely my pleasure.